We're joined by Allison Strong, singer, songwriter, and actress of film, television, and commercials. Allison, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Mabel. It's great to see you again.
It's been a while. I had the pleasure of interviewing you a number of years ago, and in fact, you had won a contest. Do you remember what
Yeah,
that would have been?
I believe it was the Oscar Mayer Hasta la Fama contest when
Yeah.
I was 11 years old. Yeah, in front of my middle school. Yes, Woodrow Wilson.
Well, I have to say it is so beautiful to watch how you've blossomed in just into like a swan. The same sweetness, the same demeanor that I recall, and I'm just so happy about all the exciting things that you're working on that we're going to be talking about in just a few minutes. But
Yes,
first, I want to ask you, how are you and your family during this pandemic?
my family and I. So I'm quarantined with my mom. My mom's my best friend, so we're doing all right. I stopped going into the city for work on March 13th, about, and it was pretty scary. When my last day in the city, we were in the subway system, and I remember I was going from audition to audition, and and everyone was standing really far apart from each other. People, I didn't want to touch the railing. So there's obviously this sort of sense of panic. But I've essentially been indoors for 2 months. I really haven't left, and trying to stay active. It's been a surprisingly sort of fruitful time. So uh, auditions are still happening. Creativity is still flowing. I'm still playing music. I actually played my first gig via Zoom last week, which was wild for a crowd of I think 150 through through an organization in the city. So it's been actually a very positive time, very positive. Hmm.
I'm glad to hear you say that because I think people are taking the two extremes. Either they're using this time to almost I want to say reinvent themselves because it's an
Yes,
opportunity where we've been forced to pause
of
and it
course.
is a
Mhm.
chance to start fresh, or some others are just want to relax and it's like, you know what, this is the break I've never gotten.
Yeah, there's no wrong answer. I, I personally, for me, activity is where I find my joy. So I made my first sourdough starter and I've been making bread. I have never gardened in my life. I took a big planter and I put some seeds, and just today I saw sprouts of bok choy. I love vegetables, so and um, I built a home studio in my closet. Don't ask me about the mess on the outside of the door, but I mean it depends on the person. Then I have friends who are using this time mostly to just relax, watch movies, and there's no wrong answer. It depends on what you need, at this time, and this is such a unique time for that. So really positive.
Well, I'm glad to hear and look forward to seeing some of the fruits of your labor in
Thank you
months
so
to come. Speaking of labor, so were there projects that you were working on when this quarantine occurred?
much. So interestingly enough, I finished filming an independent film actually in the winter, and I thought that it was done when I finished it, but the director actually sent an email and asked, I'd really like to add an additional scene. And, we've been back and forth over the past couple of months, and, there's nothing to be done, at this time. There's nothing to be done. So um, that's something that's, a pin has been put in that for sure. And, I always have played music. I actually had a gig that the one that I did on Zoom, I was supposed to do it in person. You
Oh,
know, it's still a big part of my life, and so I keep up with my music, and I imagine that this spring I would have been playing out a lot more, but unfortunately, with the pandemic, it can't be physically in person, but it can certainly be on the internet. So that movie that I'm finishing up, I guess, who knows when we're actually going to be able to truly work on that. But yeah, I'm keeping myself busy, and the auditions do not stop during this time.
You've worked with some heavy hitters. You've worked with Adam Sandler, Chris Rock in the film called is it The Week?
The week
If I'm
up,
not mistaken, The Week Of. Uh,
yeah,
then you were also with John Stamos in Bye Bye Birdie on
um,
Broadway.
I
Of
was,
all,
yeah, Tina Gershon too.
congratulations! Of all the projects that you've worked on, has there been a favorite?
Gosh, both of those projects that you mentioned for me were very, very special for me in different ways. Bye Bye Birdie was my first Broadway show. I was 18 years old. And I got it from an open call uh, when I was in school. And it was so special because it was my first Broadway house, first Broadway show, first time working with someone of that actors of that caliber. There was also the actor Bill Irwin, who's a legend in physical comedy, was also in that show. Dee Hodey, like amazing Broadway actors, as well as John Stamos, who is, Uncle Jesse to everyone, and Gina Gershon. That was special for me. It came at a perfect time. I was starting my musical theater degree. So that was special. The week of was completely a surprise. It was honestly my first feature, my first movie, and I got a lead in it. And I got to be Adam Sandler's daughter and Chris Rock's daughter-in-law. Like mind blowing, the nicest people, and just the best 2 months I think I've ever had. And shot in Long Island, right next to the beach. So I was shooting during the week, going to the beach on the weekend. Had the most spectacular time. So those two projects, you called them out correctly. Both favorites for me. Yes.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I had the chance. Well, it was interesting. So when I saw that particular movie, I didn't know you were in it. When I saw it, I kept thinking, is that? And I was like, no. And it took me a while because I just thought, well, it could very well be. And then I was remembering the last time I saw you, which we were talking before we started the interview, had been an event that I was co-hosting. And I thought, no, I mean, it looks like her. So throughout the movie, I was questioning myself. And at some point I decided, I was like, that's hers. And then I went on my phone really quick to see, if your name appeared in the movie. I was like, oh, well, it is her. And it was this
Yes.
proud moment for me. I was like, oh, I'm so happy for her that things are continuing to, I mean, it was something you wanted to pursue since you were a little girl, and to see that you actually,
Yes.
you pursued your dreams and they were becoming a reality, was so lovely.
Yeah, it's been it's been a long journey. I started singing, I think, obviously when we're 3 years old. I don't think we have any indication, but I started singing on my kitchen table when I was 3. You know, but I think my mom, when I began that, who's to think that that's going to become a career, right? I think she would have probably liked it if I had worked in the United Nations or something like that. But yeah, to think from singing on my kitchen table with a dollar store microphone that echoed back at me, singing Shusha and Devi, que lo suelto, that's
Oh,
it's
wow.
yeah, that yes, yep. And
Your mom
to
let
think
you
that
watch Gloria Trevi?
I think my grandma actually had a friend from church who helped watch me. My mom was a single parent, and so Rosalba was my niñera at that time, and she let me watch all of it.
That's cute. So you talked about your music, and just a few years ago, you released your debut album, March
Yes,
Towards the Sun.
yes, hacia el
And
sol. Hmm?
so congratulations on that.
Thank
And
you so
the
much.
album is bilingual. You sing in English and Spanish.
I
I
do.
thought that was great. Why did you make that decision to do that with your first album? Because a lot of people will do the crossover in time.
Mm,
And you did it from the very start.
I'm an independent artist. I don't have a label putting pressure on me. And, the question that you're asking is like, why didn't I wait? I could wait because that's the most me thing that I could do. I grew up bilingual, and a lot of these songs didn't realize themselves in English, so they came to me in Spanish. And also, I sang Pueblito Viejo, which is a song that my grandparents would sing at the table in Colombia. Together. It's an old uh, Colombian folk song, and so uh, for me, again, I didn't have any pressure. This was my own independent project that I chose to do, and I try with the work that I do to. It doesn't matter if I'm acting, it doesn't matter if I'm singing. I try to be truthful, and I think that's being that is my highest truth. Is that I'm not just Colombian, I'm not just American, I am both, and so my work is going to reflect that.
And it does, it comes across. I got the opportunity to listen to a lot of the songs,
I'm
and
so happy.
they resonated, but they moved me where I got a little teary-eyed, at one point. And that's how, I remember when I was younger, I would select a card for my mom and dad. And it's funny when I think about it now, if it made me cry, that was the right card.
Always. Yes, and like, when I write music, and I remember the first song on that album is called Rewind, and I wrote it pretty much everything I write is based off of truth. As I've gotten older, inspired by different stories and stuff like that. But that first song on the album, I wrote it for an ex-boyfriend, or regarding a situation, and I remember I started crying at the piano, and I was like, yeah, this is good. This is a good song. And I would say, and it doesn't matter what genre or what area we're working in. I think we would call that like a gut feeling. When I was working with Adam on the week of, I think the reason I got that part is because I was raised by a single parent, and I always imagined what it would be like, a father daughter dance and stuff like that. And so with him, I got to have that experience,
Oh,
and it was truly a genuine emotional moment for me, because that's something that for people who don't grow up with a father figure, that's just such a visceral sort of want. And in the final scenes of the film, I get a lot of messages from people who say that they were moved by that, and I cry too. And it's they feel it when you feel it. So again, I just think it's a testament to being genuine in your work in general, and it's going to move people.
oh,
So,
absolutely. Oh, that's beautiful. So when we were talking about your album, March Towards the Sun, or in Spanish, I'm trying to think, ¿cómo es que se diría en
hacia el sol. Oh,
español?
pues marchando hacia el sol. Hay una canción, there's a song called Hacia el Sol that I did a bilingual version of, like a completely Spanish version and a bilingual version. And originally the album was supposed to be in Spanish, but I at the end I was like, no, it's going to be an English title. Hacia el Sol will be a part of the album. Those are the songs. But yes, yeah,
Oh, that was perfect. And you performed in some of the areas where you grew up. I'm wondering,
yeah.
what did that feel like? So, for those of you who may know you, or those of you that may not know this tidbit, you were born in Hoboken and grew up in Union City.
Yes, it's true. It is true. I am a born and bred Hudson County girl, and very proud to be from this area, which I just think is so rich in culture. We take care of our people. This is a very strong community. My family came from Colombia in my family came from Colombia in the 60s. And, they settled first in Houston, Texas, then the Weehawken, and then Union City. And so this is our place.
What was it like to actually be performing in what had been home for so long?
um, you know, it, it's I think it goes back to what I said about, being genuine. There's a genuine connection. When I actually released my album, I chose to release it at Bergen Pack, which was the place where I took my first musical theater lessons when I was 7 years old. Uh, and they welcomed me with open arms, and the entire room was packed and full. And that was the room where I did presentations as a 7-year old. Before this even was a thought in my mind. This is actually the bargain pack used to be called John Harms in
Yes.
Angola. Uh, and that was the place where my mom put me in musical theater class, and that was also the place where I got my first solo. And a pair of grandparents stopped my mother after I sang my first solo ever in the world, uh, which was the song "Much More" by the Fantastics, which is an off-Broadway, very famous show. And they said she's going to be on Broadway one day, and that wasn't even something that was even in our minds. And from there, my mom put me in voice lessons, so it was just a very full circle moment. And then seeing all the people from my life, all of my middle school teachers, high school teachers, my friends from elementary school and middle school, even college, just everyone coming together, and the fact that it was standing room only. There's no better feeling than
Oh,
to sing at home.
lovely.
Yeah.
We're actually having a moment right now.
Yes, we are. I mean,
Aw.
I remember not just you interviewing me when I won the Hasta la Fama contest for Oscar Mayer, but also I did community theater with the park players, and
Yeah.
you would always come and pay our little productions attention, which we so appreciated, because how else would the community know about our shows? So it's so important, the work that you're doing. So thank you.
Oh, that's sweet. Well, I have a love for theater, so every chance I got, somehow I persuaded my news director to allow me to do these pieces. And
No, it's
they were just so entertaining. And it was
absolutely.
something that if I weren't there, they weren't going to get done. So,
Absolutely. And because the community needs to know about it. And so I just remember we would do these shows at the park theater. And you would be there, and to embrace us with open arms and talk about our little productions, so that people in the community would know and come and support, because that's the way that arts are allowed to stay alive. People need to know, we artists are dependent on people wanting to listen and watch, which is what's so interesting about this quarantine. You're seeing a lot of people on Instagram Live playing their music, and getting tips, or getting donations for people that are in need, and you know that's what keeps the arts alive.
no, you're absolutely right. And something else that we have in common, and you mentioned it a few minutes ago, that your family's from Colombia. My family
Yeah,
happens to be from Colombia as well. And
yeah,
so you're talking about, everyone, a lot of people are doing some binge watching.
of course.
And so one evening, not that long ago, I found myself watching a documentary where you get to visit Colombia. So
Oh
of
my God,
course
you're
I
talking about
took
back.
it in because I wanted to see. I was like, oh, I didn't know where your family was from, so I wanted to see what your experience, was like. And I enjoyed the documentary. I recommend it. I'm not sure what the name of the documentary
Oh,
was.
it's called Back Home. It's called Back
Okay.
Home. That was such a random and wonderful experience for me. I get a lot of emails, from my website, and something got caught in my spam folder, and it was all in lowercase, and it was from this producer named Pérez Osorio, who is now a very well-known producer on Netflix. But he was working for Diego Luna at the time, and he goes, "Hi, Allison. My name is Carlos Pérez Osorio. I was wondering if you would like to come to Colombia in the next couple of weeks. We are doing a documentary in Colombia, and produced by the Fusion Network and Diego Luna. Let me know. This is my phone number." And it was sort of like garbled and in lowercase, and I thought to myself, I could get murdered, or this could be the best experience of my life.
Bitter.
And also, he said that he found my Wikipedia profile, which I
Oh,
never created.
wow.
Somebody from the community created a Wikipedia profile for me many years ago. I actually had the opportunity to meet him, and I had to thank him, because of that Wikipedia page with all of the clippings of all of the shows and things that I've done since I was a kid.
Oh,
That's the reason, because I'm under a list of Latina actresses in the United States. And so because of that, after that email that, gosh, if I were any, this was a couple of years ago. If I were anybody else, I would have never responded to that message. But being who I am, I'm a little trusting. Yeah, yeah. So I ended up being in Colombia, a couple of weeks later, and I had never been to the capital before. Got to go to Bogota, and the whole premise of back home was, meeting the sort of parallel people that are living parallel lives leading parallel careers in the country that your parents are from, and what it means to be an artist there. And so I got to meet a theater actress, a theater and television actress in Colombia. I got to go to a couple of theater companies, fledgling theater companies, because really being a theater actress is very challenging in Latin America. It's essentially the equivalent of being a bohemian. I mean, not in a bad way, but community theater, the quality of community theater for us, it's sort of equivalent there. They don't have the money for costumes. Theater is what the people who truly love doing um, acting, that's what they want to do, but they would have to balance it by doing telenovelas, soap operas. And then also I got to meet a singer-songwriter, but she supports herself by doing TV. And so it was a fascinating experience. I'd never been to the capital, and it just made me feel so incredibly lucky that, my family came to the United States when they did, because ultimately it would be much harder for me to do what I'm doing anywhere else.
A moment during the documentary that I loved is you got to meet cousins that you didn't know.
Yes, it is.
So I saw you guys were hugging and
Yeah, my mom's first cousins and their children, and I'm actually super good friends with my mom's first cousin Juan Diego. I met him and his wife, and I met his kids. And now we're, really good pals. And, for that moment that I was in Bogota, from the minute I met them, we connected. And I remember after we shot the documentary, we went to one of the nightclubs that's actually on the in back home, and we went dancing. And I had only known them for a day. It was gosh, like, you know, my grandma always said when we came to this country, um, somos una familia bien pequeña, tenemos que cuidarnos. And there are very few of us in New Jersey. More of my mom's cousins are in Florida, but really everyone is in Colombia. But when I met these cousins, it's just a realization that there's so much richness and extension of the family back home, literally back home. So it was. I think that's the reason why I cried in the last minutes of the doc. Though it's not hard to make me cry, but yes, truly very cool. I loved that experience, and if you have the opportunity, Carlos Perez Osorio, who's the reason I was on that documentary, who really fought for me, he actually directed the Taco Chronicles on Netflix, which is sort of like a viral hit.
yes, yes.
And he's just doing really fantastic work that's sort of opening people's eyes up to Latin culture, and giving people a positive introduction to our culture if they're not familiar with it. Gosh, I mean, I always wonder sometimes, how life would be different if I were living back, in Colombia, where my family is from. It would be a different experience. But, I think it also, the fact that there's this distance, el reencuentro, it's just all the sweeter, when the connection. In that way, I guess distance makes the heart fonder.
Oh, that is true. And right now during quarantine, there's a lot of
Yes,
distance that I hope
absolutely.
will make the hearts grow fonder.
I hope so. That is the hope. Yeah.
I keep a bucket list. I have a life bucket list of the goals that I hope to pursue. What would you say is on your bucket list?
Oh gosh, this is the first thing that came to my mind. I'm throw myself out of a plane.
I've done it. It's awesome. I told you so.
Skydiving.
We're
Skydiving.
similar.
I think what I always tell, and my mom always says, I won't do that with you. I will take a picture of you. And I've asked friends of mine, and they will not go with me. But my next birthday, actually, I would
If you want to
love.
go, I wouldn't mind doing it a second time. I highly recommend it. And you know why I did it? Um, I thought it would be empowering.
Yes,
That's actually the reason
was
why I
it? I
did
bet
it.
it was.
It was extremely empowering. I have to say, for about a year, that was my go-to. When I thought I couldn't do something, I'm like, I jumped out of a plane. I certainly can do that. So,
Oh, absolutely.
so it did. That was actually the reason I did it. And I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. So jumping out of a plane definitely has your.
Yeah, I bet. So I'm not an adrenaline junkie at all. A couple of years ago, it's funny because we're just getting into that part of the spring where I'm used to traveling with all of my female cousins and aunts. Not all of them, but a good amount of them. Oh, it's usually a group of 5 or 6 of us, and we like to go through Latin America. So we went to the Dominican Republic a couple of years ago, and they decided to all take this tour because I wanted to go so bad. And I think it's called the Blue Lagoon or something. And I wanted so badly to cliff jump, and no one would join me. I had to put my hands on a pulley with no protection underneath, and I was supposed to hold my body weight until we got to the middle and let go. And so I just hear my aunt screaming, let go in the background, and then you just hear me screaming, ah! And like I dropped, and it was the most exhilarating sort of I could die in a second
Yes.
moment. Um, but at the end of it, I just wanted to do it again and again. And I did it
Like
twice.
that, you'll enjoy the skydiving. It's the exact same experience. And what you made me think of is they make you sign tons of documents. Like I felt like it reminded me of the day I signed my mortgage. And it was just document after document saying that they're not liable, that this. And I'm like, okay, should I be doing this? And my parents, they know I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. So I didn't tell them. I did it in Nevada. I did it in Nevada.
Oh,
It was my New Year's Day gift to myself. So I did it in Nevada. I did it as the sun was setting. Like it was really planned out. And I only told one friend in the event that something went wrong. So I told one friend, and I said, okay, I'm going to be doing this at this time. This is the location. This is, if you don't hear from me within the like 30 minutes, an hour, call them.
yeah.
I know what happened. Let my family know what I did. But otherwise, I didn't want to tell anyone because I thought they might talk me out of it.
Of
And
course.
and then as
Like,
soon as it was over, my dad picked up and I was like, Dad, I just did something awesome. And he said, and he immediately said to me, you jumped. I'm like, what do you mean I jumped? And he said, you jumped out of a plane, didn't you? And I'm thinking, how did they know that? But prior to my trip, I had been going online. I'm assuming they must have probably seen what I'd been watching. That's the only thing that would make sense because I mean, I know they know me, but how could you guess that I'd done that? So I'm thinking they must have seen that for a couple of days I was looking at skydiving
yeah.
locations but I highly recommend it. I know it's not for everybody.
No, I know it's not for everybody, but I definitely I think it's one of those things that you have to do once in your life before your heart stops. I, that's what I say. I mean, 90-year-old women do it. That's on my bucket list. What else is on my bucket list? I would love to backpack through either South America or Europe. And I'm going to be honest with you, if we weren't in a global pandemic and I had this long stretch of time, that's something that I would do wholeheartedly just because there's always, and I've been a professional actor. I've been an actor for my entire life and performer my entire life, but I've been a professional actor for the past 10 years. And there's always this pull of, if I leave for a very long time, I could miss out on a lot of opportunities. But I've always found, when you take the time that you need, the universe gives you the space to do so. So I'm sure that that bucket list item of wanting to travel in a place for an extended period of time, the only place I've spent a month is Colombia because I have so much family and a month is never enough. But I would love to explore something new. Uh, so Europe or, going through Bolivia and going through the salt flats, like that would be So if at some point in my life, whether it's purely for the joy of it, or if I happen to have the opportunity to work somewhere and work a variety of places, that would just be such a dream moment for me. And I've been lucky that my career has brought me to different places, not mostly New York places, but and California and stuff like that. But I'm hoping down the line I have that opportunity to go international, so that would be great.
Professionally, are there things that you want to do? Perhaps other actors that you want to work with? Musically, where do you see that going?
Gosh, there are so many. I have a bit of a list of female directors that I would love to work with, and I think this is the time for female directors. Um, I just saw an amazing Jane Austen adaptation the other day, directed by Autumn de Wilde, who, in her 40s, her late 40s, she directed her first film, and it's a fabulous film. I would love to work with Autumn de Wilde. Greta Gerwig, amazing director. She directed the Little Women movie, remake, also Lady Bird. Would love to work with her. Another director, Lulu Wang from The Farewell. She I was incredibly close to my mamita. My grandmother was the light of my life, and personality-wise, the closest person to me. And Lulu Wang wrote this piece about in Chinese culture, when someone is terminally ill and going to die, you don't tell them so that they can live their life to the fullest. And watching that film, it gave me flashbacks to when my grandmother was dying, and it was just so well done. And I love Aquafina in that film. So I guess a person I'd love to work with, other than the female directors I've mentioned, Aquafina seems like such a fun personality, and she's from New York, and also in music. In terms of music, I love folk musicians, both in English and in Spanish. I love the duo Jesse and Joy from Mexico. They're a brother and sister duo. Ugh, just Joy's vocals and Jesse, just their presence together on stage is just swoon worthy. So that's a long time dream. And so yeah, those female directors, and I mean, I would love to be in a movie musical that would, or a television sort of televised sort of musical series. That would be such a treat for me, and I guess a marriage of my interests. I don't consider myself just one thing. I think things that people are going to have to get ready for is that we are multi hyphenates as performers and as public people. Uh, People always ask me, what do I like more, acting or singing, songwriting, or stuff like that. So I would love to have that opportunity, and maybe one day I'll be on the opposite side of the camera and add another hyphen to my, to my list of things that I am.
We were just talking about, a bucket list. I hope that all of your dreams come true.
Well, Mabel, I wish the same to you, and the fact that you are in quarantine still doing positive work and spreading your message and positivity and wanting to share people's stories during even the most difficult of times, that's just a testament to your character and the type of person that you are, and the type of you're an artist too, the type of artist that you are. And so thank you for sharing these stories, and thank you for including me. It really moves me. And also, as a Latina woman, a fellow Colombian first generation woman, I love seeing us doing positive work. So keep at it. Thank
Oh,
you.
you gave me chills.
Thank you, Besito. And hi to all of the people that will be watching. So thank you.
Face. Young ladies, this is an adult speaking, and I order you to smile, please. Gray skies are gonna clear up. Put on a happy face. Brush off the clouds and cheer up. Put on a happy face. Take off the gloomy mask of tragedy, it's not your style. You look so good that you'll be glad you decided to smile. Pick out a pleasant outlook, stick out that noble chin. Wipe off that full of doubt look, slap on a happy grin. And spread sunshine all over the place. Just put on a happy face. No! Not so fast, girls. Put on a happy face.
No!
Put on a happy face. And if you're feeling cross and bickerish, don't sit and whine. Think of banana splits and licorice, and you'll feel fine. I knew a girl so bloomy, she'd never laugh or sing. She wouldn't listen to me, now she's a mean old thing. So spread sunshine all over the place. Just put on a happy face. Here we go, girls.